Welcome to Blooming Wildwood Homestead. Today we are going to be canning Marionberry Jam. I have this gorgeous bucket of Marionberries that needs to be processed and preserved. So we are going to make some Marionberry Jam first today, and then if I have extra Marionberries, I will go ahead and put those into the freezer. One of the easiest ways to get started with canning jam is to go ahead and make the jam with pectin, and that's what I'm going to be doing today. I'm going to be using the MCP because that's what I have on hand. Now, there are different kinds of pectin depending on your needs. You can get some that is low sugar, you can get the regular kind. I'm sure that they have other options as well. I've always just used the standard, and so that's what I will be sharing with you today. I am going to be making a cooked jam, not the freezer jam, although with this pectin you have the option to do either one. This is a great recipe for you to get started with if you're kind of new to canning and you want to preserve some of that berry harvest. So let's check it out and see just how easy it is. We want to start by processing the berries. So in order to do that, we need to make sure that these berries are crushed, and that's going to be the first thing that we add to our pot. So I'm going to go through the berries, make sure that everything is looking nice and clean, and then we'll go ahead and crush these. So I'm going to run this in a couple of batches just because that's what's going to fit in the bowl, and I find it easier to work with smaller batches. You can go ahead and crush these in lots of different ways. I happen to have this tool that's normally used for breaking up your ground beef, but it seems to work nicely for crushing berries, and so I like to use it for that. You could do a light spin through a food processor, or you could use a potato masher. Lots of different ways that you could crush these. Just use the tool that you have available, and that should work just fine. That's crushed enough to my liking. I need 5 3/4 cups to go into my pot. And one of the things I like about this particular bowl is that it does have the pour spout, so it makes it easy to pour the berries out and really measure what I have. That gave us a little over 2 cups. So as you can see, I'm going to need to do this process just a couple more times before I have all the fruit that I need. Here we have 5 3/4 cups of crushed berries. You'll want to use whatever your recipe is on the pectin. Some of them vary a little bit, and it really does depend on what kind of fruit you're adding as well. We're going to add 1/4 cup of lemon juice. I always use the bottled lemon juice. We'll add 1 packet of pectin. And then we're going to add about 1/2 teaspoon of butter. This will help to reduce some of the foaming. We are going to mix this up and bring it to a full rolling boil, at which point we will go ahead and add the sugar and then return it to a boil and boil it for 4 minutes before putting it into jars. We have now reached the rolling boil stage. You can tell that it's at a rolling boil because even though I am continuously stirring it, it continues to boil up around the sides, which tells us that it is now time to add our sugar. We are going to fully combine that sugar with our berry mixture, and then once it returns to a rolling boil, I'm going to boil it for 4 minutes according to the pectin package instructions. Yours may be different depending on the type of pectin that you use. I have had some brands before where you only boil it for 1 minute, so just be sure to check your instructions and follow whatever it tells you to do. I love this particular spoon because it has a nice head on it that allows you to really get into the corners of the pan and make sure that I'm stirring everything into the mixture. Now that it has returned to a rolling boil, I'm gonna go ahead and mark 4 minutes on the timer. All right, so I have now removed this from the heat. You can kind of look and see, even though we did put a little bit of butter in there, there's still a bit of foam, not much though. If you want to go ahead and scrape that off the top, you can do that. The butter does help to cut down on that, and there really isn't much here. Probably be inclined to just mix it in if it's just a little bit. Now we're going to go ahead and put the jam into the jar. This is one of my favorite canning scoops, and I love it because if you fill it up, it's about half of a pint full, and it has 3 different ways that you can pour your product out of the scoop, and so I just really like how that works. So I'm going to fill my jar, and I also like that it has a little hook so I can leave it on the side and I don't have to worry about it getting buried. And then you can see here about how far I filled up my jar, and that's going to be good to go. So we will go ahead and put the rest of this jam into jars and prepare it for processing. All right, so we ended up with 12 and then a little extra. Now I am making a second batch, so I will just save out that little bit of extra and see if I have enough in the next batch to top it up. If not, it'll be great on biscuits tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to that. Next up, I'm going to get the lids ready, and I'm gonna put those in a saucepan. These are just covered with water, and I'm gonna go ahead and bring those to a boil. All right, so while those lids are coming to a boil, we're going to go ahead and clean off the rims of these jars. And while all of this is happening, I do have the hot water bath warming up. It is electric, and so if I have hot product in the jars, I want to make sure that I have hot water in my canner so that they don't end up breaking when I put them in. The reason why we're cleaning off the rims, we want to make sure that we get a nice tight seal, and so you don't want any jam, kind of like this one here. You can see that it has spilt onto the rim, and we don't want that because that will cause it not to seal or could break that seal. And we want to give ourselves the best opportunity possible. And then I always run back through with a dry paper towel or cloth just to make sure. Probably not necessary when you're putting on an extra, or when you're putting on a wet lid. However, my grandma always did this, my mom always did this, and it does provide just another opportunity to make sure that those rims are clean. So we have our lids heated. This is another tool that I really like. It has a magnetic bottom on it, and it is a lid lifter. And the nice thing is you don't have to worry about those seals drying out as you are trying to get your jars, the caps put on your jars. And so it's just another nice tool that's not essential, but nice. You want to finger tighten. Be sure that you don't over tighten your rings so that you can have great success with sealing. And then I'm going to use the jar lifter to put this jar into the canner. All right, we're gonna go ahead and finish that up. and then we'll get that canner ready to bring to a boil. The nice thing with the electric canner is that I can get more product in here. So right now I have 12 half pints, and I think if I configure it a little bit differently, I think I can get 14 in here, and I can get like 9 or 10 pints. And so it's just nice because it holds a little bit more than the stovetop canner, and also frees up my stovetop for continuing to work on cooking down whatever I want to start canning next. So we're gonna get this boiling and go from there.